Hi, welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 18, brought to you by Sterling Auto Group. We're doing things a little bit different this time around, going to an audio-only version and trying that out for the time being, trying to see what works for you guys in the best way for you guys to listen to it. So we really appreciate the feedback. If you like this version better, let us know. If you prefer us going back to video, let us know as well. I'm here obviously with Jason Leskiw, Preps reporter.
Avi.
I'm here with Jason Leskiw, Preps reporter. And he got a chance to talk with the Brown brothers, so out of Wahkiakum, so we'll have that interview as well. But I'd like to first start off with what we've seen in the first half of the football season. In Friday's paper, we'll have our mid-season report card for all that know-how. But Jason, what have you seen from football teams through the first half of the year?
Kalama is dominant. Both Woodland and R.A. Long are talented and can go a long way on that talent, but they both had issues with consistency. And those are the two main things. I also, we'll talk a little bit in the interview with the Brown brothers. We talk about Wahkiakum and how they've surged a little bit. They've been a bit of a surprise, though there are a few reasons that you will learn about that kind of explain why they've done a lot better than I think a lot of people would have expected, during, the month of August. So those things are my main, points. I'm not sure much has changed in the last week, but yeah. Right.
The Central 2B League or the Southwest 2B League is always an interesting watch. But 4 teams do make the playoffs out of each division, so a lot of teams are at least going to get a chance at trying to make something happen in that Week 10 playoff match. What I'm really interested to see is how the GSHL 2A shapes out. You saw R.A. Long have some success early, but then they drop to River and Woodland, and you look at their schedule, and now they're in a real tough position. With Hawkinson and Washougal undefeated, still left on the slate, and you have to wonder, even if R.A. Long is able to pull off a win here or there, if they're going to be able to make the playoffs. That loss to Woodland was much bigger than I originally thought. And on the flip side, Woodland does look like an inside track. They still have Morris and Richfield left on the schedule, which right now sit at the bottom of the division. So I think Woodland did a lot for its playoff hopes with 4 teams getting in this year to the playoffs. In that win over R.A. Long, and they'll admit they didn't play their best football, but they're starting to find ways to win. So it will be interesting to see how it shapes out. A couple interesting notes on just player performances that you'll see in our mid-season report card, and I'll start with a Woodland kid is Jacob Flanagan. Not the Flanagan that gets the most attention on that team, but he leads our area in sacks with 6 now. He's just a true force on that interior line for the Woodland defense. He was constantly on quarterback Owen Enriquez last week trying to get the ball out. And, Mike Woodward just said that, he's just one of those wrestling guys, and those wrestling guys are tough. And we all know that's the case. And then, of course, we have Joey Tripp out in Rainier, who, he's just done everything for them. Definitely the early front runner for All-Area Player of the Year, which would be the second Rainier quarterback in a row to complete the feat after Steele Ware had it last year. That guy just does everything. Runs the ball, throws the ball, leads the area in tackles.
But can he tap dance? That's the big question there, right?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, but I wouldn't put it past him to if he wanted to tap dance, he could do it. certainly a great kid out there. And then, a guy we had on our podcast recently, Tucker Wetmore, out in Kalama. Kalama has a lot of guys we could highlight as stars right now, including Brendan Vance, who I think is up to 4 interceptions on the season. And he's a sophomore, and he led the area, I believe, in last year in interceptions as a freshman. So that kid's good out there, and Tucker Wetmore is just dynamic on both sides of the ball, and it's cool to see him have the senior season he's having right now after some struggles last year with the knee injury and the quarterback battle at the beginning, and so that's cool to see. So definitely a lot of standouts early on, and some guys we probably didn't expect. As far as we talk about surprises. Wahkiakum is probably at the top of the list at 4-1.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what the Brown brothers had to say.
Well, one thing that they mentioned is and this was evident on the first day of practices. Their numbers are ridiculous relative to how they have been the last couple seasons. They had I believe it was 28 or 29 kids come out this year, and it's not just the numbers, but it's the quality of player that they have in some of these. They have a freshman who is lightning in a bottle. And both Luke and Zach talk about how he had, if you exclude a penalty or two here, whether it be a holding call or something, that the officials saw, he's up to about 5 or 6 touchdowns. He only has 1 technically, but he's the type of guy who I think a lot of teams are not going to want to face, and they've also been able to do a lot more with their playbook with the numbers. That was something that Eric Hansen in about July, I think it was, I was talking with him, and he was saying we were talking formations and things like that. And he said, well, look, practice, when we have practice, we don't have the numbers to do individual offense or, those sorts of things that bigger schools are able to do. Everybody's a two-way player, and that's the way it has to be. And so, coaches are the scout team and that sort of thing. So now they've been able to do a whole lot more on both sides of the ball, because they have a real scout team for the first time in a long time.
Here's that interview from Jason with Zach and Luke Brown of Wahkiakum.
Welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 18, brought to you by Sterling Auto Group. I'm here with Wahkiakum's Zach and Luke Brown, riding high at 4-1. So welcome, guys. So kind of walk me through the way the season's gone through the first 5 games here.
For a young team, we've done pretty good. Our blocking and tackling have been pretty good so far. We've seen improve and stuff like any other team in the state. But for how young we are, especially with how much freshmen that we have, I think we're doing pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is the offense operated in your opinion? You're there under center. Have things gone pretty smooth this year?
In the backfield, we haven't had any injuries or anything, so that's going good. The only thing, we've had some injuries on the line. Our starting strong tackle got hurt, he's out for the season, but we've had 3 kids rotated in there, so we're still trying to find who's going to fit there, but I think this week we have somebody planted. And then we actually moved one of our receivers to quick tackle, and he's been our one of our best linemen, actually.
Okay.
In Evan Quigley, and so that was a nice find. And but overall, we're starting to change up a lot of different formations and a lot of motions to confuse defenses. So it's been working pretty good.
Okay. And you guys have numbers this year, which is something you guys don't generally have. I think. What, do you guys know what the final roster looked like?
I think it was like 29 or 28, but my freshman year we had about 18. My sophomore year, I think 14, and last year we have 17, 16. So finally having a JV helps a lot.
Okay.
So I mean, I remember practices where it'd literally be we'd have to do half a line because we'd only have so much guys, and the coaches would have to like act as
the scout team.
Yeah, scout team. So it was pretty bad.
Okay. How was Coach Hansen as a scout DB?
Oh, he's
not
where was all the assistants?
Yeah. Okay. So how different is it having so many extra bodies in practice?
It's nice because when we're doing drills, you get a little more of a break.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also good because, like if somebody does go down, we have somebody else to fill in, and there's just a lot more we can do in practice, a lot more options because we have more people.
Yeah, I remember it'd just be constant, just to be you during the whole time, just doing the same drill over. I mean, you don't hardly got a break and stuff. But yeah, it definitely helps because I remember, I think my freshman year, one of the backs went down. We're looking around like, all right, who can put in? But no, this year it definitely helps that we had numbers. So.
Okay. Have you guys adjusted the playbook at all because of that? I know one thing. I was doing a story on the wing T early in the preseason, and Coach Hansen had said, "Well, how are we going to practice a spread offense when we only have 16 players? We can't. I mean, we can do a little bit,
Yeah.
but." So have you guys been able to do more in practice?
We're running basically the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're just running it out of like different formations now. So we've actually been running a lot of spread and like trips and stuff. But it's basically the same thing, just different formations.
Yeah, earlier in the year we were just almost strictly wing T, and then the coaches just came together and talked for a weekend, and then they decided that we should change it up a bit, and then that's what we did against Raymond, and so that worked, and then obviously worked against Monster Rock too. So yeah, we've just been going a lot more, spreading it out, instead of just strictly going wing T. So
okay, have you noticed any teams kind of being surprised by that? By since Eric's been coaching you guys, it's just been wing T, Wahkiakum, and really nothing else. I mean, have other coaches? Do you feel like they've been surprised or anything like that?
Probably because the games before, like we just kind of just started doing it this last week against Monster Rock, and so all the films, if they had any on us before that, they were probably surprised when we came out and started doing that. So
yeah, I mean, almost all the coaches know each other in the league too, especially them knowing Hansen for how long he's been there, just saying wing T and stuff too. So I mean, I bet it's a little bit of surprise, but other teams are going to be playing later on. It's going to see the film, so they're going to see what we're doing now. But who knows? Maybe the coaches have something else that they're cooking up. So
okay. Have you guys bounced anything off your dad? I mean, having him as a coach there. Have you guys talked to him?
He's like the trick play generator.
Okay.
So he'll actually come to us and he'll be like, "So what do you guys think if we did this?" And some are just crazy.
Sometimes it's just like, no, it's not going to work. He's like, "Oh, are you sure about that?" And there was one time where I remember my junior, I think last year or my sophomore year, he came up with some, and Coach Newman was like, "That's just not going to work. Like, what are you thinking?"
Yeah, he's a little radical with the plays sometimes, but yeah. So it's kind of the opposite. He usually comes to us.
Okay. What's the most radical of the bunch? I'm sure you won't be running, this one that you're about to describe in a game. So
I think one time he wanted to
do the
triple lateral pass. And
okay.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work.
Yeah, 2 fumbles in one play at least, right?
Basically.
Who was? Do you guys remember who was supposed to throw the ball? In that
I don't know. I was supposed to toss it to somebody, and then that person was going to toss it to somebody else, and then they were going to toss it back to me. Then I was going to throw it, and it was just too much.
Okay. What we were talking about earlier before I hit record there about Chance and kind of the things he brings in. You guys said he's really scored 5 touchdowns or so versus the one that has been an official touchdown. Kind of walk me through some of these. I know you guys said, walk me through his first touch as a Wahkiakum mule.
Yeah, so our first game against Nacelle,
An 8-man.
Yeah, an 8-man. We get the ball, and the first play was called to go to him, and I handed it off, and he got around the outside, juked 2 guys out, and just ran to the house. And then we looked back, and there's a flag on the ground, so we had to come back. And then
There's another one that game too.
yeah,
he had
another touchdown that game, and another flag. And the first 3 games, he kept scoring touchdowns, and there would always be a flag down.
And he finally got
he
one.
finally got 1 touchdown against Rainier, our 3rd game. But yeah, he's fast. He can get outside. 3rd or 4th game. But yeah, he's fast. He can get outside. And I was surprised that for how short and small he is, he can actually bounce off a few tackles. So.
Okay. Yeah, he stood out right away, I'm sure, to you guys too, at midnight practice. And do you see him being an asset long term? I'm sure you guys do, but in terms of just wearing out defenses, getting guys tired, especially the big guys on the line, I mean, how much of an asset do you see that being for you guys?
I mean, it definitely helps. I mean, well, they moved James was a half last year, and so with Hank Ferguson gone from last year, they moved James to full, and then having another guy that's fast too, like Chance, it definitely helps. And then that way, it's just someone that's not as I guess what I'm trying to say is James is pretty fast, so it's good that we're getting a guy that's even faster than that too, to bounce around the corner too. So.
Okay. You guys have 2 Darren Sproles on the roster. It was kind of what those you guys between James and Chance remind me of. Let's talk about the defense. How efficient do you guys feel like the defense has been this year?
I think it's been really good. I think the only game was South Bend, but I think we only actually they actually scored on us. I think 14 or 20 points, and then every other game, it's been under 14 or something like that, 14 or under. So I think our defense has been pretty solid so far.
Yeah, we come in with pretty good game plans. Coach Niemeyer is really good at studying film and putting together a good game plan. So we feel usually pretty confident on the defensive side of the ball.
You guys, speaking of Coach Niemeyer and your dad, a lot of 2B schools have some of the same coaches, but I think for our area, you guys are unique, where it's, for the most part, kind of the same coaching staff. I mean, Eric coaches track and stuff like that too. So, how do you guys have is that an advantage for you guys, having the same personalities and also a lot of the same players, that everybody knows each other already? They know how to communicate and that sort of thing. Is that an advantage, or is that just kind of something different, I guess?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, it can be looked on as good or bad. Some people would say that, you don't have any different inputs or that and stuff. But I mean, Coach Niemeyer is a really good baseball and football coach, and he's a JV basketball coach as well. And so he's a person I really respect too. So, and he's really hard on work ethic and stuff. So I trust his, and he's very honest with you too. So I trust his opinion too. So yeah, I guess it's just the situation that you're in. It could be good or bad. I think our situation's good.
Okay.
You also don't have to break any ice with players or anything. The coach because you were with them since football or whatever. So I think that helps. There's no awkward stage or trying to approach a player or a coach.
Okay.
So.
And you guys spent a lot of time together on the road, going up to Anacortes, and how much has the team changed from last year to this year as far as chemistry and that sort of thing, especially with the success you guys had for the baseball season?
I mean, we basically it's almost the same team kind of, but with the incoming freshmen. But the incoming freshmen, I mean, we played with half of them during baseball too.
Yeah.
So I mean, our chemistry I think is really good too. I mean, on the bus, everyone's talking to each other, everyone's joking around. I mean, on team dinners, we all sit on one. It's not just separate tables and stuff. We actually just have one single line for the majority of the time. So I mean, it's not just we all know each other, but we're all pretty close with each other too. So.
Okay. And for those not familiar with Wahkiakum, there's a freshman by the name of Ashton Niemeyer who could probably, if he maybe had some facial hair, you might think he was about 30 given how big he is. What does he bring to the table right now?
He was out. He was actually out for like the first 3 weeks with a broken foot.
That's right.
And then, but now he's back. I mean, he's one of our best linemen by far.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even as a freshman, I mean, he's pretty big. I mean, you've seen Coach Niemeyer too.
Yeah.
He's center in his jeans too. But yeah, he definitely helps a lot, especially on the defense and offensive side. So
yeah, he brings a lot of physicality, ups your game a lot because when you're like if you're lined up against him, in practice you got to go full board because he's going to go full board. So it just makes everyone better.
Yeah, and when you guys on Friday nights face somebody, I'm sure that guy is going to have a really long night.
Yeah.
So, all right, and so kind of transitioning a little bit, just because I saw you were wearing the Giants hat. I know they're not in the playoffs, and I grew up a Giants fan. I had season tickets for the first 10 years they had their new ballpark there, or maybe not so new now, but
yeah.
Curious to hear your guys' thoughts on how the playoffs might go.
I think it's going to be either the Rockies or the Diamondbacks that's going to win through the National League.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that just because I'm guessing there might be some Dodger hate?
Well, that too.
Yeah.
We've been Giants fans the whole
And
life.
Kershaw can't pitch in the playoffs. So,
But I think I've been watching this year, and I think the Diamondbacks are pretty well rounded. And I think it's either those two because I watched a couple Rockies games, I watched a couple Diamondbacks, I've just been following the MLB and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be either one of those two teams that's going to come out in the National League. And then for the American League, I think I'm going to have to go. What was it, the Indians, the Yankees? Now they won their wild card game.
Yep.
Who else?
Boston plays Thursday.
Did the Rangers win the West, or was it the Angels?
Houston. That's right.
Oh, Houston did.
Houston in the West. Yeah.
I think it's going to be either the Indians or the Astros that comes out of the American League.
Okay. No Yankee hope. Or
I think they're still a
hope.
little bit too young.
Okay, but the Astros are good.
I like Houston. I like Jose Altuve.
Yeah, he's hard not to like. Anybody who's 5'7" and can do all that, I mean, shoot, the bat carries is about as tall as he is. Okay, and what the Rockies and Diamondbacks pick kind of took me by surprise. What about those two teams are kind of exciting for you?
I guess kind of just to brag on NL West team 1 and 2, but yeah, it's just I think just from what I've seen, I think the Diamondbacks are probably going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think that whoever comes out of that National League is going to win it all. So it's either going to be the Rockies and Diamondbacks, in my opinion.
Okay. All right, and I can't really think of too many players outside of Blackman and Gonzalez on Colorado. They're so young. But pitching to Goldie would be miserable. he's if you guys, I'm sure you guys remember watching Bonds, and that guy. Matter of fact, I think 2003 he was walked
Does he
more
still
than
have the record?
50%. I believe so. It's like he had more walks than actual any other type of at bat, outcome, whether it was strikeout, hit, whatever. And so it was like 173 walks or something like that to 400 at bats or whatever. It's crazy. All right, so going back to high school football, you guys have done exponentially, or maybe not exponentially, but you guys have done better than you have in the last couple. And I know I've mentioned it to you guys. You guys were ahead of time, or ahead of schedule, I guess you'd say, in the baseball season. I personally think you guys were the better team in Centralia in that game that was lost. I think was there three strange, I guess we could call them, plays at third base with the umpire. Yeah.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
I think it could have been a different game without those.
Yeah. No, I was sitting up in the booth with one of the top official, head of officiating type people, and he was just like, maybe this guy shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So, but with with how well you've done, I mean, how's the confidence, I guess you'd say?
I think it's just all about like the morale and the attitude towards football. A lot of people dreaded like when football season came up and just couldn't wait for it to be over. And then after the 0-9 season, we had a really good Camp Railia, and that was last year. We had a really good Camp Railia, so then everyone was excited coming into the season, and then that carried into the season, had a 5-5 record, and so I think it's just the attitude and morale. Everyone's excited about football, and so that's changed.
Yeah, I remember my freshman, sophomore year, I remember half the students like, they'd try to talk, like, just like the girls are all the people that didn't play football, and they're just like, what's the point of going? I mean, you guys are going to lose anyway. But now it's starting to change too. It's like the community's starting to go to the games more, and then it's definitely building up again to what it used to be. So I'm excited about that.
Folks are riding the hype train kind of thing. Okay. And what's the biggest obstacle for you guys this season?
I think a lot of like
I think youth kind of, but they know it too. I don't know. Our freshmen know the offense too. I don't know.
Yeah, they've been running like the offense since middle school and youth, but I would say the line. We had some injuries from the start. Some people we thought where they were going to play somewhere. Some people ended up getting hurt. We had to move some guys around. So I think we've had to like find who we want to put in there. But I think now we pretty much know who's cemented in their spots.
Yeah, I think the line, like finally having the one guy, because we've been changing it for the past 2 or 3 weeks. But I think now
they just didn't have an identity. But I think
now that they can like now it's all set. I think they can work together now, especially with the first week though with 8-man. Yeah, and that kind of messes up a little bit with only having like 3 linemen. So yeah, it was definitely a little weird.
Yeah, no, I got my first taste of 8-man this last Friday, and
it's exhausting.
I bet
it's exhausting.
I bet you're running sideline to sideline the whole game, right? Okay, how? I guess is there one game you guys have kind of circled on your schedule this year?
This week too.
Yeah, this Clam week's a big week.
Yeah.
I mean, the number 1 team in the state, so that's exciting. That's fun.
Okay. What do you guys see on film from them?
They're fast. They're really fast.
Yeah. They got some big guys up front too. And then Dyer's good. He's really good at scrambling, making plays. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the game when they played Knobvine. That was a really good game.
That was a very good game. Yeah. Any game that goes that long, I wouldn't want to play in, I guess. go sleep an extra 2 hours after that, right? All right. So final question here. Who's going to win the Central 2B? Who's going to be the top dog in this area for the 2B?
Well, I would say us. That'd be my first answer.
Right. Okay.
On that, that might be out last week. Are you talking about like division or like, because they have the whole different divisions too?
For a second, I actually did forget that there's the river and what the coastal. So yeah, we'll go with you guys with
the river division. Yeah. Well, my first answer is always going to be us. And then I think depending on this week, if Kalama beats us this week, Kalama. Well, they're also the number 1 team in the state. So I would say that out of the conversation. Right. Just because, they're good. But Toledo too. They've been surprising me pretty good.
I mean, they lost a lot
of seniors, and so I didn't know what to expect from them this year. But they were right in it with Adna, who's
top 5
up there. Yeah. And they beat PWV, so they're pretty tough too.
I think South Bend and PWV, I think that's gonna be a good game. South Bend's legit.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. That's one thing. It's this division is kind of as always, but it's stacked, and it's. I think this year it might be even more unpredictable than it ever has been. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but
yeah, I mean, MVP. What were they like? They won only like a couple games last year. Now they're on a little bit of the come up. And then on Alaska, who's always a big, just hard-nosed, double-wing team. Rainier is good too. I think they just got knocked out of the top 10 or something like that, but still, they're a solid team that
Right.
in there. Can't forget Adna, Napvine, PWV as well. And then South Bend, though, with their veer offense, I mean, people think like, like they're not that fast, but once you actually see it, like it's different.
Okay. Are they the type of team that they're just as fast in pads as they are out of pads? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also just a bang offense. Right when this all snapped, they're right to it.
Okay.
So, yeah, you got to read quick.
Yeah, they're well coached too. So.
Okay. All right. So to recap, Wahkiakum, Kalama, Toledo. Would that be?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's actually-
juggle.
That's actually, yeah, Toledo surprised me a little bit too, given the size of their team. You know, they have a guy at 6'5", Junior Arroyo, and then everybody
Junior.
else- yeah.
Yeah, I'm good friends with them.
Okay, yeah, and that's a big dude. But the rest of the team, you look at him and you're like, this is not a football team. And then you watch it play, it's a football team. So, all right. Well, thanks for listening to Preps Plus podcast, sponsored by Sterling Auto Group. Thanks again, Luke and Zach Brown, Wahkiakum Mules football team. And until next week, take care.
Okay, we're back. We're going to jump right into our second half predictions or thoughts. I'd like to start off with Kalama, number 1 ranked team in Class 2B. Is this a state title team, Jason?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I believe they're going to go undefeated in the regular season, and I think they're going to go obviously undefeated in the postseason. They're the type of team, they're so deep that even if they suffer, if quarterback Alex Dyer, I think that would be the toughest injury to overcome, but they're a team that can sustain an injury or 2 or 4 or 5 and still win. And I think that's one of their biggest assets. They have and I know I mentioned this on the podcast before, a 6-man defensive line rotation. So everybody's fresh. If someone gets hurt, okay, that's a bummer, but they got another guy that can come in and play just as well usually as the guy who can't play that week. And that goes for really every position on the roster. They have a ton of speed. They have a ton of power. And like I said, Dyer, losing Dyer would be pretty major. But he's also, that said, he's probably the area's best quarterback. We talked about Joey Tripp at the start of the podcast here. But, I think Dyer, as far as quarterbacking ability specifically, could give him a run for his money there. And I think with him, the best is yet to come. I think that we'll probably see in the postseason Dyer do some amazing things.
You don't see a lot of 2B teams that are able to rotate guys the way Kalama does. A lot of their guys are one-way guys. And that's crazy to think about for a 2B team. And you see it on the defensive end. I mean, they're fresh, they're ready to go, and they have one of the best defenses in the state right now. So Sean McDonald's done a great job with that group of guys. I really think they can do some magical things this year. That rest of that league with Napavine and PWV, Toledo, the rest of that Southwest 2B league is going to be awfully tough, and they'll certainly see a couple on the way to a state championship if they were to make that far. But Kalama's got the talent right now to do some great things. What are a couple of your other teams that you're looking at to do big things this second half to make a postseason run?
I really like Toledo, actually, sticking with the 2B. They're a team, and as you just heard, talking with the Browns, they're not a big team, and they, you look at them and you're like, okay, but they just took on a similar playbook than the one that they are used to, but there were still nuances that they've been figuring out. They lose their quarterback, or the guy who was going to be kind of taking the reins there, and still find a way to compete and win. And I think as they start to really mesh some more and get really familiar with how, different guys play, bringing a runner back inside, so that the rest of the team can come up and gang tackle, or finding the little things like how that right tackle blocks, or how a wing takes a reverse handoff, or any of those things. I think that they could really surge, and in a lot of ways, to me, that's a little crazy, just because they're at such a disadvantage from a size perspective.
Another team I think that could really surprise teams is Klatskanai.
Mm-hmm.
I think this team has gotten really overlooked this season. They rattled off 3 wins and then competed down to the final whistle with Amity, who's ranked 2nd in the state right now. And Klatskanai still ranked 13th. Out of that Lewis and Clark League, they'll almost definitely be a state playoff team. And where they go from there, really depends on how well they can execute. But when you have as many athletes as they do in the backfield, along with our area interception leader on defense, Cooper Blodgett, you can really do a lot of things. This is a team that can score in bunches, but at the same time, a Sam Shockley-led defense can really hold teams. So I really think Klatskanai can make some noise. I don't know. I can't say that they'll beat Rainier in week 8 and seal that top spot. But if they made a run to the state semifinals, I wouldn't be shocked. I think that's within the realm of possibility for the Tigers this year.
Definitely, and I think you kind of hit on forcing turnovers, getting interceptions, forcing fumbles. However, you got to force the turnover and get the ball back. That's one thing I know drives coaches nuts, and that's the one thing they, it doesn't matter what team it is, all coaches care about, possession, probably, maybe just a tiny bit less than their children. You know what I mean? Right? Like that's the number one thing for a coach, and it doesn't matter where you are, what sport you're if you're talking basketball even, or whatever. So when you have a team that can force turnovers effectively and consistently, you gotta worry about them.
Of course, we can't go without mentioning Rainier. We had Dawson Carr on the podcast last week. I think if they end up on the opposite side of Sandy Am Christian, who's the clear favorite out of the 3As right now, they could make a run to the state title game. I mean, this team is talented. They can run the diesel. They can run the spread. They can play defense. They can force turnovers. So we can't go without mentioning Rainier, but we'll keep it short because we did just have Dawson on the podcast last week. To move quickly into games to watch for this week, in week 6, here we go. We'll start with the big one this week, likely for the GSHL 3A title, or because it's early, we can at least say it puts the winner in a driver's seat to that. Last year it decided it. I would imagine that's what decides it this year again, but certainly a huge one, at McKenzie Stadium at 7:30 Friday. What's your thoughts on that one?
Man, Mountain View is tough. They're the school that I think probably nobody wants to deal with right now. I think at the same time, Kelso's the most equipped team to compete with them. I would expect this to go, be up in the air till about the final whistle. Whoever gets to take that last knee or what have you. And you're right. This is a game that's going to decide, and both teams know it. This is no secret. Last year, Kelso went 4-1. Their loss was to Mountain View, that particular one was a closer game, I think, than the box score would indicate. I know that Kelso coach Steve Amrine would agree with that. There was a few plays that didn't quite go, the way anybody would hope, and that decided the game. And when you have 1 or 2 plays that decide a game, it's a lot of people like to focus on 1 or 2 plays when they analyze a game. Usually it's really 20 plays that make a big, strung together that make the real impact. In that case, it was just 2 plays. So when you look at it like that, if Max McDaniel continues doing what he's been doing, which has been extraordinary, if their defense can hold, I think Kelso can win this. I think those are the 2 keys for me for Kelso to win, certainly. But this is going to be an exciting game.
Yeah, I was at that game last year, and really, Kelso got punched in the mouth right off the bat with the opening kickoff. Fans weren't even really seated yet, and things kind of just went downhill from there. They dominated the second half, but at that point, it was a little too late. I think Kelso's defense is so good this year. I think somehow they're better than last year, and that's crazy to think about when you lose the type of guys up front that they had. But they already have 3 shutouts this year, and I think they'll actually be. I think they'll be able to slow down Mountain View, and definitely be in the game at the end of things. It's interesting to see how Quentin Nelson will do if he's forced to throw a little bit more. He hasn't had to the last couple weeks a whole lot, and so it'll be interesting if Kelso gets behind early. How they approach that, but that run game that they've developed the last 2 weeks as well. On top of that, of just like, hey, we're they used to pass 15 times a game. I think they're down to 4 or 5 times a game. So. I think that helps the defense out too, staying on the field longer, extending those drives. Max McDaniel, putting those 4 or 5 yards in, 4 or 5 yards in, 4 or 5 yards in. Kelso's a tough team. They're a gritty team. They if Mike Woodward says, those wrestling guys are tough, Kelso's got a lot of wrestling guys on that team. That's a wrestling team pretty much. So I think it'll be a great game. Jason will be at it down at McKenzie this week. So look forward to following him, with all his updates and the story and video from that. Should be a great one. Very quickly, because we're running a little bit long here, let's break down Richfield Mark Morris and Columbia River Woodland. Give me your thoughts quickly on those 2.
This is a game that I think Mark Morris should win. And they have the longest in our area, our coverage area, have the longest losing streak running right now, and so this I expect will be the end of that. Last week we had Winlock win for the first time, and they were winless last
couple
year.
Weeks ago.
Yeah, was that a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, they played Kalama last week.
Oh, time flies. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Anyway, so I think Mark Morris should take home a win this week. And as far as Woodland goes, they're also my favorite. But I think this is a point where they kind of need to prove their ability to remain consistent to themselves. There were a couple weeks ago they had a couple, I think it was 5 turnovers in the first half. And that's something that can linger a little bit mentally for any team, any one player, group of players. So I think now is a time to really prove to themselves that they can be consistent, that they can control the possession and do what they have the ability to do.
Right. I also have Mark Morris in that one. I saw him against Washougal a couple weeks ago, and they're just so tough. They're to their credit, they're fighters. They held Kelso to 7 points in the first half. They led RI Long in the first half. They're tough and they work hard. It was rather heartbreaking for Morris fans to see them lose to Washougal in the fashion that they did. But if they can kind of get that feeling back of how well they played in that Washougal game and just erase last week at Hawkinson, that was just, I think, the worst time they could have had Hawkinson, coming off of what could be, a momentum booster, and then having to go play Hawkinson. That's a tough thing to do. So we'll see if they can get that momentum back. I think they do. I think they break that 15-game losing streak. This is an improved team from last year. The scores might not show it, the results might not show it yet, but they fight. Their defense is actually really stinking good. If the offense can generate a little something that they haven't been able to get yet this year, that defense can carry it. So it'll be interesting to see that one. As far as River Woodland, it's a big game as far as playoff stakes go. I really think Woodland found something in the second half against RA Long last week, going to the empty set, letting Hart run a little bit more. I think that'll continue, and I would imagine that they have some success moving the ball against River, but you're right, they have struggled with inconsistency. Even in the first half against RA Long, they couldn't get something going offensively. Tyler Flanagan, I believe, will be fully healed this week. He was still battling it a little bit last week, and I think on his second touch, he took it 56 yards. So if that's him slightly injured, you know what he can accomplish fully healthy. So I think, they just need to solve that inconsistency problem. But that'll be a good one as well. I'll be at Ridgefield Morris. He'll be at Kelso Mountain View. We have some help from our news reporter who's going to be at Kingsway Castle Rock in that Trico battle. That's also important for playoff stakes. And then we'll be back next week. We appreciate the Brown brothers for coming out and interviewing with Jason, and appreciate Jason for breaking down some things here, and we'll be back with you next week.
And we can't forget Sterling.
Sterling on our group. Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care.